Hi everyone, today I would like to continue with arches and simply show you again in how many different designs they can be used and utilized. And in the first episode from this short series I showed you arches that were simply playing the very main role. Then in the last video on Sunday, I showed you arches that were serving to encapsulate a very specific element from the rest of the pattern. But today I would like to show you some designs where arches are actually playing kind of the structural role. So let me start from quilting the simple arch. As you noticed, this time I'm using ruler foot, and the reason for that is that this time I would like to pay a little bit more attention to the spacing between my quilting lines, and I am simply much better at that when I'm using my quilting foot. So let's start. Today I'm using a very nice yellow. On top thread, at the bottom I have red, which is very similar to my fabric, and it means even if my bottom thread will show up, it will disappear in the fabric, so my quilting will be looking fine. So let's start with the first arch. This time I will keep them a bit smaller. Let's add some smaller echo, and now let's add some space and let's create a larger arch. So I have here now this whole space, and I can now fill this space with any design I want. And again, let's start it easy with back and forth lines. Again, you can see this is creating almost like a flower shape. And then I can add the final arches to close off the design. So I am simply shifting the motif of interest from the central element to the one more on the outside, and you can have some fun effect with that. So let me smaller central arch, sorry, now thin echo, let's create larger space, and let's start adding the back and forth lines. Let's travel a bit. Let's create an arch, skinny echo, some larger space, and we can go on with back and forth lines. So in this case, arches are used to define and subdivide my quilting space into well-defined areas. Now I can see that the thread is actually not contrasting enough. Let me change it to lighter color. So I changed it to very pale yellow. Hopefully it will look better. Yep, that looks better. Sometimes the thread selection looks okay in the daylight, and then on the camera it turns out that the contrast is too pale. So once more, first arch, second very thin. Now we are creating larger space. This way of using arches is a little bit more challenging than the first videos I made, but I like to give you a challenge, give you more ideas to try and exercise, because only like that we can grow. So you can see my echoes are always not perfectly equal. So let's do one more here, because I will need more space to start with a new design. Back and forth lines are very nice. The only difficulty you will have here is that you have to change the angle so they are pointing more to the center. And then, but what else can we do? The same principle, center, thin echo, this time a little bit thinner space. In this case, very decorative. Nice and small pebbles, if you like precision challenge. You can make the pebbles more skinny, only then you will have to pay more attention about pointing them out more to the center. Arches give you this nice way of exactly this, dividing the space in different sizes that you can then fill with fillers of your choice. So they are extremely flexible, and that makes them one of the most powerful shapes in quilting, I would say. I must admit that I never really paid attention to how often one shape is repeated. I was just more concentrated on the whole pattern instead of the components. And because I have to explain some things to you, I am also learning and gaining new understanding on my own. And that's really good. There is something here. So. Let's now create a bit more rings here because I don't want to fill it with partial arch. Depending on the filler you will choose to use, you will probably should adjust the size of the outer ring, so it's easier and more flexible to use, to fill. But that's about the only challenge. But it also means that the patterns, this way of using arches will give you more versatile look. So if we have such nice small pebbles, they are not that small, they are giving us some space for extra, some modifications. We can go for marbles. So this is like the extra little swirl inside. For even more dynamic look. I was trying to draw some of the patterns and elements, but I must say that some shapes I cannot really test out. And for example, I tried this one on the paper and it somehow didn't work out. I couldn't get the proportions right. And sometimes I hear from you that you don't know how to practice on the paper because you cannot draw very good. I understand you very well because I have exactly the same problem. I'm really bad at drawing, but I can quilt it. So that's sometimes funny how our motoric skills are playing trick on us. So let's quilt one or two more. I noticed that after these 3 videos, my arches got much more consistent, and that tells you a lot about quilting. There is always a place to grow and place to develop, and I like it a lot. It keeps me also motivated to provide you with the content where you can also see my progress and I hope also motivate you, because very often I am getting in your comments that you never did any free motion quilting and that you are afraid to try it, or you don't know if you will be any good at it. And the point is, you never know till you try it. And at the beginning I was also not very good, but I was always enthusiastic. Here, because for a new design I would like to show you something more fun, arches within arches. We haven't used nested arches in a long time, so let's do that. Separate with the echo, create some space and fill it with nested arches. These are the ones that we are trying to pull to the tight corner. Oops. Something got tangled under. I have to stop. So actually what happened was that the bobbin thread was running out and its tail got stuck and the bobbin couldn't rotate under. So that's why the funny noise. And that's really fun design. Very directional, so it adds extra dynamics and pulls the tension there. So the only difference to the previous video is that I am using my fillers not in the center of the arch elements, but in one of the rings outside. And as you can guess, if I'm doing it in one, so far I always concentrated on doing it only one ring, but who says we cannot do it twice? Or, for example, use different fillers and make very complex looking structures if you want to have some fun. You can try different combinations and probably it will look good. Almost looks like a fossil. That's fun. If I can get similarity to any of organic shapes, I'm extra happy. As you can see, I don't need much to be very happy, and that's actually very good. So let me do one more. So we have some similarity of shapes in one corner. Let's try a different shape. This time looking like a part of mechanical, like a clockwork element. So it's a bit faster, it has completely different character and dynamics. Less organic, more technical one. Find a way to describe the best way to quilt it, and let's try this description. So I have my space where I want to quilt the Triebwerk, that's in German. I know the name in 2 different languages, but not in English. So what I'm actually doing is I'm actually quilting a partial eco line, alternating the position of it. And I'm always trying to quilt a line that goes to the center of my ring. So I don't know if that made sense. But think about this line and this line like interrupted eco line from the outer and inner ring. One more. Inner element. Thin echo. Space. Like echo line, then going down, another echo line, up, echo line, down, So one more, and then we will go again back to a space where it's to an area where we have lots of space for new elements. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have already 5 different ideas how to quilt, how to create different fillers based on arches. Let's see if I can do one more. A bit more space this time. And let's check who is here directionally challenged. This design has always some antique look for me, I actually like it a lot. Can be a bit challenging if you're not used to quilting it, so I would say please practice it on straight lines first, but once you get the rhythm behind it, it's a very nice and interesting filler. It's like quilting a little labyrinth, a little maze. So I'm trying to divide it like in three parts to make it more effective. That would be in principle enough for the partial arch that we have here. Here it's a very small one, so probably I will just have enough space for 2. So I would just split it in half. If it's not working the first time, don't get frustrated. The most important thing is that it's looking semi-similar, and repetition will do the rest of the trick. Here I got, for example, a bit distracted, so I just quilted something. The point is difference will be not really noticeable. And here I did it again. That's the problem when you're quilt with not enough sleep. If those designs are too complicated, there is always an easier way out. And we could just get around with a wavy line, which is similar to the other one, but much easier. Each of those designs has different density, different kind of intensity. For example, this one is very low effort and just to create interesting texture. So it's perfect if you're in a hurry and you want to have an interesting texture but be still done with the quilting within a reasonable time. And it's very low difficulty and complications level. So I think that's, let me just do one more, because so we have some area with some concentrated differences. That's all what I can up with for today, and taking into account that I'm anyway approaching half an hour, that's not too bad. So we have, this time we are using arches to create a larger ring around our central element, and we can fill this ring with different patterns. I chose the back and forth lines where I am using skinny wavy line from the inner ring to the outer ring, and I can repeat it. It's kind of like a bit of like a flower shape. I can create this outer ring a bit more narrower and fill it with pebbles or with small swirls, which I like to call marbles. I can also use nested art for an extra interest, and because they will have very distinct directionality. And of course, I can do it not only within one ring, but within two of them as well. The next one is a little bit more fun, which looks like a clockwork gear element, but it has completely different texture and intensity because there is almost none of the traveling that it was visible in the other patterns. And the easier variation of it, it's the one with very simple short wavy lines, in contrast to the back and forth lines like it was here. In this case, the wave is much shorter in the terms of the amplitude, so it's much smaller, and we are not touching any of the arches, either inner or the outer one. So we are just creating like a very fuzzy clockwork gear element. And then, of course, for the fun and for people that know exactly where to go and are not tired, is the little labyrinth elements. Probably I could come up with a few more, but I'm a little bit tired. It's pretty late today. But nevertheless, this is already like 6 or 7 different motifs. And I even didn't start with the swirls, because probably we could fit some there. I hope you will like it. You will try it out, and hopefully it will bring some use to you. Talk to you soon. Bye, and thank you for watching.